Welcome to the Fran Snyder Podcast, where I talk to artists and music fans to explore how music connects us through great stories and experiences. Brought to you by the Listening Room Network. Today's guest, Paul Sprawl. How are you doing today?
Howdy, Fran. I'm well, thank you.
Good to see you're sporting a wide brim hat for the Texas sun there.
Yes, yep, that's right.
So tell us a little bit about where you are. I know you've been living off grid for some time, which is kind of a topic of its own, but tell the audience about the extraordinary lengths that you had to go through for this podcast.
Well, we live in Terlingua, Texas, 17 miles from the Mexican border, which is the Rio Grande River, which they'll have a hell of a time building a wall in the middle of if they ever try. Even the Republicans in Brewster County don't want a wall. It's absurd here. But our connection, we're off-grid, so there's no phone line, but there is a cell connection that's sometimes pretty good, sometimes pretty bad. It isn't good enough lately. There are too many people around. When the more people that are around, the worse, the slower the connection is. So I live stream on Fridays and Saturdays from a place that I was playing 2 or 3 times a week called La Kiva, where they have a great Ethernet connection. But we were coming up here to Alpine anyway, so I'm here in Alpine, which is 80 miles north, but I don't normally have to go 80 miles to get a decent connection for live streaming. Right.
And you're in a car, right? You're not in a solar bike.
Right. No, we're a horse-drawn wagon. We don't get any petroleum products down here anymore.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So one of the fun things about you, we've met in person a handful of times. The first time I ever saw you, I might have only just shaken your hand after the show, but you were doing like the shootout at Eddie's Attic back when they were doing that every 6 months. Exactly. And it wasn't the finals, but you smoked everybody that night. I don't even remember if I played. I don't want to remember if I played that night, but I
remember that I got a CD from you in a sort of paper bag or a sort of package. I mean, that color. Am I right, or am I remembering that wrong?
I don't know. I never kept stuff in a paper bag that I know.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was more just a natural finish. Actually, wasn't. I've seen CDs in paper bags, but this was just that kind of rough finish.
Okay, yeah, it's possible. I was in Atlanta at the time, and I had an act called Six Strings and Vinyl. It was me and a DJ mixing things up. So that might have been something I pressed at home, and it would have been on a plane thing. But anyway,
it looked great. I loved it.
Thanks. So I remember fondly that night, just because Eddie's Attic would draw some really great talent.
And us too.
Yeah, and us too, exactly. And so roughly half of the people in there would be people that you would enjoy, which is a high watermark for an open mic night.
That's true.
But then you went in and just killed it. It was just unanimous. All the judges were, kissing your feet afterwards. It was great.
I had $100 bills that I slipped all of them beforehand. That helped.
Well, I didn't get the $100, and I would have voted for you. But anyway, so that's when you got on my radar. And of course, you have that unforgettable Paul Sprawl moniker that you go by. And I think the next time that I saw you in person was when you were in Florida to play our Listening Room Festival.
Was that the next time? Wow.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think we probably kept in touch a little bit, but that's another like memory of mine that is just forever locked in, because I was introducing you at my friend's house. You were doing a house concert there, and you discovered just moments before the show that you needed to change your strings. And so, and I was a little frustrated because I like to start on time, and you're in there just kind of like totally relaxed, nonplussed, whatever. I'm going to change my strings right as the show's about to start. And so I wait till you kind of, at least get them all on there before I ask again. And, you about ready, trying to hurry you up along. And you said, I'm ready. And I'm looking at your flapping strings.
You're not ready.
You're not ready.
Your strings are not tuned up yet.
Yeah. And
not even remotely.
And you said, introduce me, I'm ready to go. So I said, all right, here we go. You know, Paul Sprawl.
It's your funeral, right?
Exactly. And then you proceeded to make a super cool, bizarre song out of tuning your guitar while singing and just improvising. It was baffling and amazingly entertaining. And then so this whole setup is leading to something, which is, you know, you intimated to me at sometime after the show that wasn't your first time doing that, obviously. And number two, that you had gone to, I don't know if it was an art school, this is where I want to go here, you had gone to some musical training thing where you also hung out with Steve Poltz and did a lot of avant-garde type of music. Is that a fair representation?
Well, Steve Poltz didn't figure into that. I did. I met Steve at open mics in San Diego.
Okay,
and,
I thought
there wasn't much experimental going on with him. Although he's always a little bit experimental, I was a student at UCSD for, you know, back in the days when you could afford to be a student for longer than you needed to be, and I also went to Cal Arts and spent a year there. I sat in. I was attracted because Charlie Hayden was teaching classes there,
and where's Cal Arts?
In Valencia, California. It's a suburb of LA.
Okay.
It's where Magic Mountain is. But anyway, that was the formal. I grew up as a weird kid in California, you know, interested in everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I always had I was always a weirdo. And, and I've been able to get away with it my whole life. I don't know how, but, you know, they're putting the screws to me now, though. You know, it's getting harder.
Yeah. Well, I see you're having to avoid civilization to quite the extent there.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think when I first met you, you were in Minnesota. Is that right?
No.
Or no. Were you ever living up north?
Yeah. After 2011, my parents both died in March of 2011, and I inherited enough to buy a timeshare in a mobile home in California or an entire house in Minneapolis. And so we chose the latter. And we lived up there for a while, off and on. We bought this land down here in Terlingua while at the same time we bought the Minneapolis land or house. And we ended up selling that and being, you know, basically, well, this desert land's our primary place. It's our home base now, exclusively. So, but we spent enough winters in Minnesota to know what it's like, Mr. Canadian.
Yeah, well, I left Canada when I was 8 or 9 years old, and
that doesn't count. They don't make you shovel snow and rake leaves and all that stuff at that age, do they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did plenty of that, and I got another taste of it in the 2000s when we moved to Lawrence, Kansas. I was in Kansas for a while, so
I lived in Lawrence.
Did you?
Literally, and I lived in Lawrence for a year and a half, around 2010.
Yeah. And, I was there 2005 to 2011. I can't believe we were there at the same time.
That's weird.
That's really
Didn't
weird.
run into each other at Manhattan Music or anything. Huh?
Yeah, I was laying low.
Larry Carter's Tuesday night music series at the Art Center.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't believe we were there at the same time. That's incredible. So you've been with Laurie Lee for a long time. I know that she went through a health scare a couple of years ago. How did you guys meet, and how long you been together?
We've been together. It'll be 16 years next Valentine's Day. We were performing supposedly separately, in a group show benefiting a mutual friend on Valentine's Day, almost 15 and a half years ago, in Santa Cruz, California. I asked her to perform with me. We both had separate slots. We did. She danced to a song of mine. We went out afterwards and asked her to marry me 2.5 months after that.
Wow.
And she said, ask me again. And then I made her pancakes in the morning, and she said, okay.
pancakes sealed the deal. They must be amazing pancakes.
Nuts as you notice. just the very thing, you know, a guy from California willing to make you pancakes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That's good.
So when you were here in Florida for the festival, you became very active. Maybe you had been active before, but there was a protest for the workers in Immokalee.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, has the sort of Native American cause been something you've been part of for a long time, or was that more from a workers' rights standpoint? Like, where does it go deeper for you?
Well, you know, my first connection with the Native community, indigenous people on this continent, was with John Trudell, who I always found just the most amazingly righteous, creative guy I'd ever really encountered. Righteous anger. He had a lot of anger. You know,
yeah.
His family was killed by the FBI, and you know, he grew up as a Native American, and he had a right to that anger, but he wasn't totally polluted by it. A little broken maybe, but still really great to listen to. Really important, I thought. I was lucky enough to open a show for him in Ventura, where I grew up, and I was driving a truck for Jimmy Cliff, and we were. John Trudell was on the same festival in Telluride, and it was amazing listening to him and Quilt Man. He used to perform with Quilt Man, who did the chants while Trudell delivered the words, and so that was really my first involvement of some sort. But you know, just some stupid white kid from the suburbs of California trying to not get in the way. You know, is basically the extent of my involvement with indigenous culture. I wrote a song for the Immokalee Coalition of Workers, who were this amazing group that got got a case prosecuted and won for slavery in Immokalee, Florida, around that time when that festival was, the Listening Room Festival. And I wrote a song for them that they wanted no part of. It wasn't that they didn't like the song. It was just, stupid white kid. Get him out of here, you know. They were smart because, you know, in 1960, Edwin Newman, I guess it was, who was the guy's name? Murrow. Edwin R. Murrow, the CBS newscaster, had made a documentary called Harvest of Shame, which dealt with all of the problems of slavery in the Immokalee tomato fields way back in 1960. It got huge, you know, exposure nationally, but it was all white people who don't really care, you know. And so the Immokalee Coalition of Workers, 50 years later, finally got it together to actually do something. And they got slavery convictions against the farm owners there. But no, I was just on the sidelines cheering, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing the power of collective action, and you know, especially nowadays we're seeing it across the world. We're seeing, you know, protesters in Thailand, you know, 100,000 of them passing their motorcycle helmets to the front row. It's swarms of people just giving up their motorcycle helmets to protect the people in the front facing the military.
No,
so
try that in New York City, they'd be selling them to the people in the front.
So let's backtrack a little bit to your music career. So you just casually threw out that you were driving a truck for Jimmy Cliff. Let's talk about some of the other highlights that led to that and from that.
Oh, all right. Well, I was living in Van Nuys at the time that I got the gig to drive for Jimmy Cliff, and I was playing in coffee houses that at the time, the LA Weekly had like 3.5 pages of listings of coffee houses. There were just scads of them, dozens and dozens. Yeah. It was exploding, and
what year was this? What era? What year?
Early 90s.
Okay.
I didn't move to Van Nuys until Van Nuys, you know, what a lovely garden spot of the universe. It was just a place where I had a room and a house, but that was 94 when I lived there. But I was active all up and down the California coast with open mics and coffee houses from about 88 or 89 when it started to happen until about 94 or so, when I took a job driving a truck for Jimmy Cliff. I was dismayed that the really exciting grassroots movement of the Coffeehouse Movement, with so many people writing songs and involved with making poetry and bad art on the walls and that kind of thing. With all of that activity, the only thing the record companies in LA could do was put out unplugged albums from old rock stars. We were kind of crying in our beer, outside the coffee houses, because only coffee in the coffee house.
Right. Hey, but hey, things have gotten much better. Now we're releasing box sets from those same acts, career retrospectives.
Oh yeah. That horrible, cynical, ugly music business basically got blown to pieces by file sharing. That's really what ended it, and for better and worse. But I love it. I love the fact that the corporate music business has lost most of its gatekeeping power, and that you and I, from many hundreds of miles apart, can do this. Right. We can record our own stuff, distribute it internationally, to be ignored by 7.5 billion people. It's a fantastic opportunity.
Well, the idea of the 1,000 true fans is something that's was kind of a weird idea 10 years ago, and now it is pretty much the holy grail for most artists. Is this idea that you don't have to be world famous to be successful anymore?
No, you sure don't, and I love that.
Yeah. So I think we have to just choose how we define success, and there's a path there. There's somebody who's already doing it that you can follow and learn from, and pick up their YouTube video,
or do it your own way.
Right.
If you can pull it off, you can get away with it. I mean, my first tour around the United States came after I got a record deal, and the record company didn't do anything with the record. And I thought, okay, I'm touring anyway.
Right.
And I didn't intend this. I had this fancy CD from the record company, and I sent it out to festivals and didn't get hardly anything. And I thought, well, okay, I'll book coffee houses and that'll work out. And that didn't work out. And I'm filling in with open mics, and I made a 8-month tour of the North American continent work, the first time ever, just by playing open mics. I kept records because I didn't think it was possible. I averaged $60 an open mic playing open mics. That's amazing. That was back in 20 years ago, when people would still buy CDs happily. And I was amazed. I actually paid for my first tour that way. That's not something you would learn from Ari Herstand or or anybody else charging you to tell you how to make it in music today, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
so
sometimes whatever you can get away with.
Yeah, exactly. If you are enjoying this podcast, can you pause for a moment to like, review, and subscribe? Please help the world discover our music community and the wonderful artists we support. Your feedback makes a difference. After driving the truck for Jimmy Cliff, did you stay as a part of the machinery, or did you go back to playing from straight after that gig?
No, I got married. I used the money from the tour and got married to a woman I had been known since second grade. The girl next door sort of thing, and we got married. And I was her third marriage. Ooh.
Yeah. And
she was my first, and we got married, and we lived in our hometown for a little while, Ventura, and didn't work out very well. Her parents decided she should go back to school up in UC Santa Cruz, and they gave her the money to do that, and I followed. I was like, the marriage is over, you can follow. You pick.
Yeah.
Typical plight of a musician.
Wow.
And so I followed her. Santa Cruz was fun at the time. It was not as unaffordable as it is now, but I was always playing, always trying to, and one of the things that broke up that marriage was I booked a tour with me and a drummer, and my wife, you know, went along with it for 4 months, and then 3 weeks before we were scheduled to go out, she said, "No, you can't do this."
Wow.
Because I was making all the money to pay the bills, and I said, "Yeah, I can do this. This is not the time." And you know, you should have said that a while back. And we're still friends, by the way.
Yeah.
She's still, you know, heckles me on my Facebook page and stuff.
Nice. Nice.
But you know, that's what split that up, and I went out on that tour anyway, and that's just the kind of fool I am, I guess. But I found a good woman who, not that my first wife wasn't a good woman, but you know, one who was willing to put up with these kinds of shenanigans.
Right. And then for a time you started touring Europe with kind of like a blues trio. How long did that last? Is that much later or right around that time?
Well, that's been ongoing. The deal that I got, it was through Lee Townsend, a producer in Berkeley. It was originally going to be with Verve Records. The president of Verve flew out from New York City to hear me at a house concert in San Francisco, basement show, loved it, and got fired. The next week when Seagram's bought Universal, and heads rolled and my deals were trash canned. And so I went with this German label that Lee, the producer in Berkeley, who's Bill Frisell's producer and manager, he set that all up. We did the record in San Francisco, even though it was a German label, and they didn't do much in Germany with it, you know, but some people in Germany picked it up, and I got contacted by a couple of places, a festival and a club, who would, you know, some local guy had picked up the record and gave it to them and said, "Bring this guy over." And so I started going over there 20 years ago, and I just never really stopped. And when the trio you're talking about, I think, was Heiko Schramm and Matthias Mox, who were bass player and drummer for Chris Whitley in the last couple of years just before he died. I loved Chris's music, and when he died, I contacted Heiko and Matthias because they live in Dresden. They grew up there, and I thought maybe they wouldn't be busy. And I had, you know, I was able to book gigs in Germany, so I asked them if they'd play with me, and they did. A fan heard us play and financed a recording for us. And, you know, it's that kind of thing.
Have you found in your career that this whole, you know, a festival, a club owner heard me and reached out, it seems to me like there's a pattern that happens in Europe a lot more than in America.
Absolutely. It never happens here.
It's like a, you know, it's a seller's market in Europe, and it's a buyer's market in America. There's just so many artists chasing so many gigs here.
I concur, senor.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This organic stuff just seems to happen more over there, especially if what you do touches on anything that can be labeled Americana.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. You know, and I attribute this to what's been going on since the 70s here in the States, when productivity and wages and salaries got uncoupled.
Yeah.
Productivity has continued to go upwards, but our wages and salaries flatlined.
Yeah.
You tighten the economic screws, and this is the kind of thing that happens. People don't have the wiggle room anymore to be beneficent.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So what are you working on now before we wrap up? I know you've been live streaming, you're adjusting to technology from the desert. That has to be its own special type of hell.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're accidental homesteaders, you know, really, you know, we just kind of fell into it. And I mean, we bought 20 acres for $7,500, and it's gorgeous land, but it comes with, the price is not financial. You know, it's a lot of labor. In fact, Laurie and I are thrilled to be having the day off up here in Alpine to do a few things, because the last 3 days we've been working with a jackhammer and a bowl, digging holes in what looks like stone lasagna, man. There's so much rock in this soil. It's more stony than anything else. We're building a dance studio, 30 by 40 dance studio, 12 feet tall. And it's, you know, we got the pad cleared by a friend with a bulldozer. You know, pretty much a friend. He still wanted $400, but hey. And digging 12 holes. It was fine with a rock bar on the bowl, but when it started with a jackhammer,
yeah,
that's tough.
So how I get the impression there's like 15 people that live near you. Is the dance studio just for Laurie Lee, or is she going to be teaching 7 students?
Well, there's a few more than that, although they don't live very close. But I mean, it's partly, we envision Glint, our place down there, as an artist residency place where, as we built up facilities, we could invite artists to come and develop work there. So that's a big part of the idea.
Okay.
My wife's a dancer, choreographer, teacher, and also a video artist now who's coming out with a video podcast.
Awesome.
She's calling it the Fran Snyder 2. No, it's not. She's not stepping on your toes with it. It's something completely different.
Well, if somebody's going to step on your toes, it might as well be a dancer, right?
Yeah, exactly. She's light on her feet. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Paul, it's so awesome to reconnect with you. Definitely look forward to catching up with you in person sometime in the next couple of years, whenever the veil lifts.
Yeah. I've got, we didn't have a chance to get into it, but Vagabond Streams is my big music project right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you got any time left.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Tell me.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if you ever go on Bandcamp. I like bandcamp.com quite a lot because they seem to be more about music than money, basically, like that. And so I found it frustrating, though, finding good music on Bandcamp, just really hard thing to do. A lot of sifting through a lot of stuff I don't want anything to do with. So I also found that's true on Netflix and Amazon, for videos. And I found this thing called Mubi, MUBI.com, which curates a set of 30 movies. And one comes on every day, and the oldest one goes away every day. So it's this rotating set of 30 curated movies. And to make a long story short, that's what I intend to do with Vagabond Streams, is curate a set of 30 different albums, probably, mostly, that will rotate once a day. The oldest one will go away and the newest one will come on. And I also want to do live streams, interviews like this, but also music live streams with those artists that are curated. So
Very
that's
cool.
my idea.
Is the focus going to be on independent music or?
Largely. I mean, I don't see the point in featuring Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Already, Lyrics pointing out he's also deceased. So.
Yeah, his interview skills might be lacking at this point.
Can we create something called a dead stream?
Probably, it's in the works.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great. I will link to your website. And is there a Vagabond Streams link to throw in there, or?
Vagabondstreams.com is going to launch hopefully by Thanksgiving. It's not up yet.
All right. Well, sounds good. Paul, be well out there. Stay safe in the hot sun. I think that's probably exposure to the sun is probably more dangerous than the virus where you are.
There's the virus?
Yeah, exactly.
Hadn't heard about that.
Yeah. Well, you're not missing anything.
Oh, good. I was wondering why my tours got canceled. I couldn't figure it out. I thought maybe I used the wrong deodorant. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, I'll check on that. Thank you for having me.
Of course, Paul. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Fran Snyder Podcast. Please subscribe, like, or share to help your friends discover this community. Also, I'd love to hear from you with any feedback or suggestions you have. And if you'd like to learn more about house concerts and listening rooms around the world, please visit and join listeningroomnetwork.com. You can email me from there. See you next time on the Fran Snyder Podcast.